Hello, everyone. Welcome back to RotoViz. I was about to say the RotoViz Overtime Podcast. This is not the RotoViz Overtime Podcast. It is the RotoViz Basketball Show. I almost got caught out there.
I have to win a tournament to get on the Overtime Podcast.
We haven't done any basketball shows, Conor, with myself and yourself, or myself and Zachary Kruger, who have been doing these streams over the course of the summer months, and we obviously finished them up just right before NFL Week 1. But we're getting back into some basketball drafts here today, and yeah, just you get those repetitions in, you get them going, and the muscle memory just brings you back to the RotoViz Overtime Podcast. So if you're new here, of course, check out RotoViz Overtime as well with myself and Sean Siegel. But I am joined today by Conor O'Driscoll. We are going to be doing some basketball drafting. It is the Battle Royale for NFL Week 4 over at Underdog Fantasy. If you're playing over at Underdog Fantasy, you can use the code RotoViz while signing up to get a 100% sign-up bonus up to $100. But Conor, NFL Week 4 is here. We have had 3 weeks of NFL action. There's some ups and downs in terms of how those basketball rosters have gone so far, but how are you feeling as we move in quite quickly through the starting portion here of the NFL season?
I'm feeling pretty good about my roster so far. I don't really like looking at advance rates this early just because there's so many more weeks to come, but they've the first couple of weeks have obviously been very kind to zero RB centric strategies.
I think they have been, yeah. So running backs not hitting in the way that maybe some robust or early running back drafters would have hoped so far, but it's early in the season. Victory laps should not be taken at this point in time, and we see it at week 1, we see it at week 2, we've seen it at week 3. I just kind of stay quiet at this point, and we'll see how it plays out over the course of the season. This time last year, for example, Mark Andrews hadn't really got going yet at this particular point. At this point last year as well, Derrick Henry was eating everybody's lunch to start that season up until he got his injury. And I believe that happened in week 6, if I'm remembering correctly. But Conor, you have been doing a lot of fantastic work over on RotoViz since like the entire offseason, I guess we'll say. You win the FFPC basketball tournament. You beat me and Sean Siegel to come in, with Blair Andrews to come in second place. But these articles that you've been doing up on RotoViz over the last couple of weeks have started to be focused on the in-season basketball leagues, which is something, again, basketball's still relatively new in terms of how big it has grown at this point. But the kind of in-season version, I guess we'll say, is almost in the Battle Royale format like DFS meets basketball. So you get your 1 week fantasy kick. You get to do it with a draft rather than picking from that salary cap. You have jumped into some of these so far. This is my first time jumping in to this format. What are some of your key tips for me and for the folks listening in?
So I guess just to start off with, I think that drafting is the most fun part of fantasy football.
I agree.
And so if the party doesn't have to stop, why go home? It's like we're back in a home Colm, and we're at the bar, and the bar doesn't have to close at 5 a.m. doesn't have to close at 6 a.m. We're just going to keep going.
We're going to wait till the sunshine starts to peek over the hills, and it'll be bright by the time we get home. But yeah, Battle Royale, I will mention as well, it is $250,000 in total prizes. It's a $5 entry. There is some other contests over at Underdog with different price points, but this one has a $50,000 prize to first place, $20,000 to second place. It is quite top heavy in terms of the payout structure, but that'll allow us, Conor, to get back to the original question. How have you found these the 1 week basketball street so far?
So I guess one of the most important differences between this and off-season basketball or normal basketball is that in a normal basketball roster, you don't really worry about your week 1 starting lineup, whereas with 1 week or kind of DFS style basketball, you only have a starting lineup. There's no bench.
Yeah.
So that's really what you've got to focus on, and
you kind of do lose out on the best ball aspect of it from that perspective. I guess it isn't really best ball. It's your lineup is set.
Yeah, it's like a drafted DFS tournament,
basically.
So with the Battle Royale in particular, there's only 6 people in a draft, and you only draft 6 players. So really, you can draft some pretty fun super teams in this. If you are just drafting the best player every time for 6 picks, you can make a fabulous team. But where it's a little different in this is that there's about 9,000. So there's 9,000 drafts, give or take, to give about 55,000 entries. And we appreciate that. Thank you. What that means is, let's say you draft. So Josh Allen is the 101 this week. You draft Josh Allen. Well, there's going to be 9,000 other teams with Josh Allen, and there's only 5 other roster spots. So very kind of limited way to differentiate from the 9,000 other Josh Allen teams. And with that, you kind of have to avoid being called duped. There's a lot of lineups in this that are the exact same, and if you think about it, if you enter the lotto, and do you want to win the lotto as the only person with your number, or do you want to win the lotto where 100 people have the same numbers as you, and so you have to split it 100 ways? It's obviously the first one.
It should be. It should be. It should be obvious. We hope it's obvious.
I do hope so. But it's obvious when explained like that, but not obvious to lots of people because
when they're drafting.
Yeah, I see people draft basically in a way that kind of guarantees that somebody else is going to have the exact same team as them.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And Jose in the comments mentioned that he had never explained or seen a video explaining the format. So, there is reasons that we are doing this. There's reasons why you're putting up your articles on RotoViz. But one of the other reasons that we're getting involved in this is there isn't a lot of content, which also gives quite a big edge to people who are getting involved. So you mentioned like people having similar players, similar lineups, and it's the same as DFS when people are maybe putting in a team but not realizing how some of those permutations will fill out. But you also have more options when you're filling out your DFS lineup, so that is then less likely to be duplicated. It can still be duplicated, but when you're down to the 6 roster spots, it's going to be pretty tight. So there is 6 rounds. This particular format, there is 6 other teams, so that's going to lead to 6 rounds of 6 teams. So it's pretty fast, 30-second clock. These drafts won't take as long once we get into them. We are planning to do 2 on them in this particular stream. It is 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex, and it is half PPR, similar to Best Ball Mania 3, for example, in terms of the scoring settings. You mentioned there kind of the teams will be in the same. You talked about how to potentially differentiate before we started this, and some of the stuff you've talked about in the articles on RotoViz is ignoring ADP over that 5th and 6th pick. So when you're doing these drafts, it will be showing up as the ADP in the chart, and you'll see that as we're doing the draft here on the stream. But it is going to be a situation where a lot of people are just going to click that top name or one of those next names. But this is where you can really differentiate those picks by veering off a little bit and pick 5 and pick 6 to give yourself that differentiation.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And another common mistake that I see, surprisingly common, is that people will pick a pocket passer or even some of the kind of like more hybrid passers that do throw for lots of touchdowns, and they won't stack them. I know in seasonal best ball that it's probably a little bit more controversial, or say there's a bit of controversy in the RotoViz ranks of whether you should how much you should focus on stacking. But in the weekly game, you essentially, unless it's somebody who's going to rush for 3 touchdowns, you have to get a teammate, more or less. And it's actually kind of shocking how often people will take a quarterback and not have a teammate.
So that is something that we'll be looking out for as we run through this draft. You also touched on stacking there, so that's another thing we're going to try and implement in here. And there'll be a lot of the strategies that we talk about on our other streams or other drafts that we'll be adding in here as well. Positional depth then is another one. It is a case that when we're looking at this, you're usually looking at kind of, again, 36 picks throughout this draft. It's not a case that all the quarterbacks are going to go. And if you do actually go unique at, say, a quarterback position and take a quarterback maybe with your 6th pick and hold off on it, that could really differentiate your team very, very quickly as well. What's your thoughts, though, in terms of, in DFS, we have like a stars and scrubs approach. You can have a balanced approach. What's your thoughts in terms of so far what you found with, say, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback? Where are you really seeing the edges at the positions?
So to start out with, I thought that the biggest edge was basically focusing on the scarcity of the onesie position. So that's quarterback and tight end. And with quarterback, that's because the top guys, the really high end guys, have ceilings that aren't easily replicated. Like Lamar Jackson can score 40 points, but there's not that many people, not that many quarterbacks who can do that with the same way that he can. And I do think that the because he scored those 40 points last week, the kind of like the field or the user base has caught up to that a little bit. But on the other hand, because there's only 3 of those real superstars this week, that's Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson, with those guys being scarcer, that makes them more valuable. But it also means that there's less people in the slate, we'll call it, that can score 40 points. And so if you can get a guy in the 6th who in their range of outcomes is to score 30 points, that can really kind of push you closer, especially if your first and second round picks are studs at other positions and they smash at their position.
Okay, and the other notes that have come in is a few questions around. I mentioned there's not a huge amount of content on it. A couple of people have asked where can they get content. They can get it at RotoViz.com. They can get it from our very own Conor O'Driscoll, who is on the stream here. His piece has actually just come live about maybe 5 minutes before we kicked off today's stream, so you can check that out up at RotoViz.com. But Conor, we will be using some of the information that you have had in your previous articles over the first 4 weeks of the season as we talk through here on today's stream. Is there anything you want to mention specifically before we start the draft, or do we want to get into drafting now? You are the boss here.
Yeah, let's get into the draft, and if there's anything that I miss,
we can come back and we can kind of add it in as we move along. So let's bounce into getting ready here for the draft. So in the DraftKings lobby, as if you're signed up for anything else, we have Battle Royale Week 4. We have obviously the top prize there, Conor. That's what we're aiming to.
Right, that's what we're aiming for. And
that's what we're going for here today.
First place 50,000, 10th place 500. So you really want to win.
Yeah. So you go shoot for the fences here as we look to try and head to win. So we'll let this fill up. Obviously 6 spots in it. If anyone is drafting and watching at the same time, let us know in the comments so we can talk about players that we don't want to have drafted here as we move into it. But Conor, what are we'll wait until it comes up and you can kind of give us the guide through it. You're going to take us on a virtual tour here through the actual entire process as we take this draft.
If you're drafting from Ohio, which I am, well, you have to set your rankings first, and I just did that. So we've got the first pick, and
the influencer 101.
Say, the top quarterbacks, they have such unmatchable ceilings. When I get an early pick like this, I'm not passing over Josh Allen.
No, and I was going to say Josh Allen as well. Obviously, I was going to say Lamar Jackson, rather, in this particular situation, based on, I think, the potential option with stacking and moving forward. If you want to go Josh Allen, you have the controls. You can make that selection. But what's your thoughts on Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson here? I just think the Buffalo secondary as well is pretty banged up at the moment. I think it sets up for a potential if we can get Bateman later on.
Yeah, I think that Bateman is in play with Josh Allen as well.
Okay, there is a comeback, yeah.
So yeah, I guess I would prefer that ceiling from Josh Allen.
That's okay. I can always
ceilings from Lamar. But
I can always use this as my excuse, though, if things don't work out.
true.
I can blame you.
So I'm going to pull up the draft board as well. So I like to watch this just to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot easier to do it in this format than others. But just for example, one thing that I'll be able to notice here is, so he's got Lamar Jackson, and Mark Andrews is not going to it's not going to get to him. You see, he's already gone. But I would know that if I'm drafted alongside him, that he's going to prioritize Mark Andrews, or they're going to prioritize Mark Andrews. So that can be useful to see who they've drafted already, to try and get a read on who they could draft next.
And when you're looking so far, you've seen the development over the last couple of weeks of how ADP has shifted across these drafts, across these contests. What are some of the key changes maybe from week 1 or week 2 that you've already seen with people figuring out what way these teams should be built?
Well, the quarterbacks have gone way up, and the running backs have gone way down. It used to be that running backs were most of the first round, and after I guess we've had the running back apocalypse, that has gone completely the other way. Like Jonathan Taylor here has made it to the second round. Like he was like going in the first 2 picks every time in week 1. The slate is a little bit thin on wide receiver, but with Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, etc. being out. But last week, the consensus first 3 or 4 picks were all wide receivers, and again, that was just not the case in week 1.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see the format, because it is so new, it is so fresh. There is going to be changes week to week, and again, that gives you opportunities based on how you want to draft and how you want to set things up to potentially give you an edge there. So we see Jonathan Taylor go off the board. We are 2 picks away. What are some of your thoughts at this particular time? You mentioned wide receiver being a little bit thinner on this slate. AJ Brown's there as a potential option at the moment. I would be thinking, we load up here and we see what's left, almost at running back with kind of a 0 RB build here. What's your thoughts on that particular situation? It was going to be interesting if it was a case that Jonathan Taylor maybe
we're on the
back
clock times 2 here. And so I think AJ Brown is an easy selection here. I'm really surprised that the guy who drafted Jalen Hurts passed on him.
Me too.
And then after
let's take AJ Brown then.
Yeah, it's AJ Brown. And then after that, I think it's a choice between CMC, I think is interesting, and
what about Kyle Pitts? Yeah.
Is he in play?
Let's go. It's Kyle Pitts week. I'm thinking Pitts here. If you want to go CMC, you can override me here again. But
I think I might have to override you here.
This is unacceptable.
I know that it's been really bad for Christian McCaffrey with the rushes and not really getting the target share that we want. But I do always want to kind of lean against the possibility of overreaction.
I would agree with that. The one thing that would temper my expectations this week is the potential, it has been on the injury report to the middle point of the week, which is never a good thing. And I just think that I'm going to keep on the Kyle Pitts wagon here until things really smash big time. And we seen it to start moving in the right direction last week. So let's hope that Kyle Pitts makes it back to us. But we have started off Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, AJ Brown at this point. You also, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the situation with stacking. So we have Josh Allen there at this particular time. How much are you looking to make sure you get those stacks? Are you forcing stacks at certain points? Are you only doing it when it comes to the right situations? You mentioned the 5th and 6th pick as well.
So in terms of forcing stacking, I don't, the player pool or the amount of players drafted here is so small that, to me, like, forcing a stack would have been drafting Gabe Davis over CMC.
Yeah.
But other than that, once you get through those kind of like top tier elite players, especially because it's on a weekly basis, it tends to be fairly flat. So the way I would say it is that I prioritize stacks, but it's not like I'm not going to try and blow up my team to get
at or below cost in most scenarios. So we're nearly back up here again. Kyle Pitts did go in the meantime in between, but who are some of your targets here as you sit again? Gabriel Davis is in this range. He probably makes sense in one of these two picks.
Yeah, I like Gabe Davis here for sure. So I don't normally I would be jumping for joy at Devonta Smith here, but now that we have AJ Brown and we don't have Jalen Hurts, I don't think that's a possibility for us. I do like Darren Waller.
What about Drake London?
So
they're the two players. They're the two players I'm between. I like Deontay as well, but probably
I think
London.
Just to demonstrate, look how thin tight end gets so quickly. We've got the first pick, so we'd be drafting Tyler Conklin or Dawson Knox. So I'm gonna override you again.
Well, I didn't disagree with that pick.
Okay, well that's good to know.
You draft this team and I'll draft the next team. I think we're pretty much on board. I had preferences, but I think we're still in a good spot. It'll be interesting here when we finish up on 2v2s. The Christian McCaffrey option. I think we're going to go here with a third wide receiver versus a second running back probably as we wrap things up. But you did mention in terms of the ADP to differentiate in round 5 and 6. So round 6 we are going to have to.
We're getting way off the board. So one thing I'll say is that Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs is going to be very uncommon because he just doesn't make it back.
Yeah.
So the Gabe Davis one would be very popular, and because of that, we're really going to have to differentiate on our 6th pick.
Yeah, the one thing here that's going to make it tricky is Bateman is still there, and I think by design he should be the pick here, but it depends if you want to play it a different way. I'm open to DK Metcalf, or do you want to go completely off the board here?
Yeah, we have to go complete. It would be Devin Duvernay or J.K. Dobbins.
I'd prefer to go Dobbins out of the two if we're going that way.
I like that. I like that a lot actually. If we wanted a wide receiver,
and this is how it gets pretty crazy, is that you're trying to differentiate yourself by taking J.K. Dobbins. You know, these are all solid options, and that's part of the fun here with the small 6-man roster with 6-man drafts is setting it up pretty nice. Who's your preferred option when we look here at the options you've added to the queue?
I think J.K. Dobbins is a great pick. Obviously, he has to settle back from the ACL injury, but
I thought last week was very positive for him based on how he got back in. I do think Baltimore's success this week may come more through the air, but what we want to do is pitch ourselves also against Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson in terms of if that game flips in a slightly different script, and that there's one way to be able to do that. So we have the draft done. Do you want to pull up the board? We'll have a quick look and then we'll jump into another one so you can tell me exactly.
So, unfortunately, the worst part about drafting on where we got it. The worst part about it doesn't disappear this time. Is that once you get out of the draft, the board is gone. So you got to savor this one because it's going to be the last time you ever get to see it.
So we have Josh Allen, AJ Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Gabe Davis to go with Josh Allen. Then we have J.K. Dobbins as a bring back on that game. Then we have Darren Waller in there also. So looking through some of the other teams, I'm going to have a quick look at them as I get your thoughts. But when we look at our team here, there were some players that we talked about possibly being different. So I mentioned Lamar Jackson as that potential first pick. That would have given us the option then at that last pick. I think what we would have done there was we would have went with Bateman in that situation. Mark Andrews went one pick after, but it would have given you a nice option. Kyle Pitts was the other one with Christian McCaffrey. So now the fact that we get J.K. Dobbins at running back, obviously Christian McCaffrey can come in and can smash this week. He may not have as much injury concern as maybe I think he does. But we could have, in this situation, potentially went Kyle Pitts there with the 301 and then potentially passed on Darren Waller for Drake London, for example, in this particular build. Which would you prefer now, Christian McCaffrey, Darren Waller, or Kyle Pitts and, say, Drake London or Devontae Smith?
I honestly think that's a fair. It
feels pretty close.
If it does feel close.
And I guess if we take Kyle Pitts there, we don't take Drake London because then we're both on Atlanta without the quarterback potentially. But it could be a way maybe to get different as well. So either way there, we're going to end up, if we did do that flip that I mentioned, we would have 2 Atlanta Falcons or 2 Philadelphia Eagles without their quarterbacks. But again, could be another way that's slightly differentiated from people who are stacking those teams.
Well, I think that may be like the problem I have with that is, so the person, the 102, and not to single anyone out, but it's just an example. So the 102, they took Lamar Jackson with the second pick, and you have to be in this tournament. We just pointed out its first prize is 50,000, 10th prize is a set of steak knives. Unfortunately that's just the case. So for this lineup to be the lineup that wins everybody's money, they need Lamar Jackson to have the game of all games. And they don't take any other Baltimore player, and they also don't take any other Buffalo player. And so that is an outcome that is very, very thin. And then on top of that, they also draft 2 Cardinals pass catchers. And so, again, if Zach Ertz and Hollywood Brown are the players that beat 50,000 people, then I would expect Kyler Murray to be scoring very, very close, if not beating Lamar Jackson. And that just, I guess, and on top of that, the 2 players that they drafted at the end are players that are going in close to 100% of drafts right now. So they have this weird combination of putting themselves in play to be duplicated. And maybe this is not going to be duplicated just because of all the issues that I mentioned that people aren't going to do that. But I would rather get unique in the ways of like, oh, hey, nobody's drafting J.K. Dobbins because of the knee injury. What if this is J.K. Dobbins week? Yeah. What if Darren Waller dropped 3 touchdowns last week? What if he catches those this week? And also, if Josh Allen 101 is what wins the tournament, okay, well, maybe Gabe Davis catches 3 touchdowns and J.K. Dobbins catches 2 or whatever.
The other part to talk through then, we're not actually talking this about specific teams, but as we see the board, we have 6 quarterbacks drafted, so that's 1 per team. But Jared Goff, for example, goes in this to be stacked with Jamal Williams and TJ Hawkinson. Justin Herbert drafted Russell Wilson, then the 3 that we talked about at the start, and Allen, Jackson, and Hurts. You know, I think overall it's very interesting to see this view and to see what players have gone, and that also gives you the idea of what players are left over. So when you're even talking about being unique, like our unique play here was to go J.K. Dobbins. It doesn't have to be like picking the bottom of the barrel and, you know, completely galaxy brain it beyond belief. So we'll have another go here. We probably won't get the 101 again. Might give us a different approach, but I think overall, fun draft, very quick, very fast, $5 to enter, potential to head over and try and win $50,000. So we'll see what we can do here with this second draft and how many times I can overrule my good buddy Draco here to set up this roster. So
what's fun about this as well is, so with normal DFS, the 1 hour between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock is like the most important part of the entire week.
Yeah.
If you're not engaged, then we got the opposite. We got the 106. If you're not engaged, then like you shouldn't even play, basically.
And every week, it's only 4 weeks into the season, but every single week there has been moves and actives. Different reports have come out that if you're not at your computer and can make those changes at that particular time, you're probably losing money that week.
Whereas with the draft format, you can draft a team, and because there's different sources of edges of maybe you know that the ADP is inefficient, and for example, Khalil Herbert started off the week in round 35, or say pick 35 or so, and so if you know, okay, you read RotoViz, you listen to Sean, and he says he's a top 5 running back going forward, you smash that button every time, and there you have your advantage over the 12 p.m. drafter who knows who's injured and who's not. And Chris, my good friend Chris G is in the draft with us. We've got to watch out for him.
Yeah, he's in the comments here as well, so we'll see what he's going to do here to fight back against us. So at least he's not back to back. He's going at the 102, takes Jalen Hurts. We are going at the 106 here, Draco. So we're probably not going to get a quarterback. What are some of the preferred options here at the back turn to try and get some?
We've got a mole in the midst. So maybe we'll wait till it's our turn to pick to discuss that. So we don't get Diggs. What was I saying before? I noticed that
you were about to say about the edge that can be when we're.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about that after we make our back-to-back picks here at this point.
So I like Saquon a lot. I also like Jonathan Taylor a lot. I think that they could be two players that have big edges on the field because they get a kind of rare level of. So I'm gonna show you.
I'm good with Barkley anyway, straight away. So take Barkley.
Okay. So are you good with a JT?
I think in this, yeah, particularly in half-point PPR, it's always hard. Anytime I ever have to draft, no matter what the format is, where we have to go running back to start, it always takes somebody forcing me to do it. But we got AJ Brown in the last draft. We'll go here and get it.
So
love me some.
I think that's super strong.
It is super strong, but you're obviously doing the work of big RB here. You're trying to get people drafting running back. So
the forces of big RB never sleep. You would think that they would be dormant after getting shell shocked weeks 1 through 3.
Here's a question for you based on people who are listening and may not know. If you draft 2 running backs, so it's 1 running back, 1 flex, that gives you your 2 running backs at this point. Are you locked out on drafting running backs moving forward, or can you draft a running back and just sink your team?
No, you can't draft another running back now.
Okay, so out of interest, go back to the queue. I just want to do a couple of tests here. Click on a star on Derrick Henry there.
So you can put him in the queue, but he's not going to be drafted.
I won't let him draft. Okay, just something in case people are listening and wondering, could that happen? You're always looking for ways that you could potentially get positive EV in a draft, and if somebody else is drafting themselves 3 running backs to start, that could be beneficial.
Chris was licking his lips.
Yeah, he was waiting on AJ Brown there.
To Jalen Hurts. It's okay. You're going to get Devonta Smith. He's the real number 1 now.
Let us know in the chat how disappointed you are with that particular snipe happening on that occasion. So we go Barkley and Taylor, and I do think there is edges. You talked about the onesie positions and having the situation where, let's say you get your stud quarterback, you get your stud tight end, you're set at those positions, but then you're in a situation where you're trying to fill in those other positions. But when you start with Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor, and you could have the RB1 and RB2 in the week in a format where you only have to start 1 running back, that can give you a nice way to differentiate and have an edge there as well. We are about to be back up on the clock. Are you going to let me have Kyle Pitts? Is that going to happen?
It's not if I'm going to let you have it. It's if JTM.
Yeah, it doesn't take Christian McCaffrey. We can't draft 3 running backs. We talked about this. It has to be Kyle Pitts.
Well, He might. He's not. He already has a tight end, I guess. So he's not going to. He's probably not going to take. So he takes
He
Sutton.
could, he
Of
could
course,
I guess, he could have went with flex tight end.
he could have done it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting approach. Just because it's a good way to get unique. Nobody's doing it. But
So we
the
are in a
same
situation here
even
now
further
where
lower.
we're taking Kyle Pitts, so we will be back on the clock immediately after that. What are we looking at then with some of the potential options? Devontae Smith is there, who I also really like in this particular situation. Or do you want to go with a quarterback option here in Justin Herbert?
If you like Devonta Smith, I like Devonta Smith.
Okay, this is starting to turn into more of my team at this point. Hopefully, we're getting on board here.
Okay.
I really like how this has clicked through those 4 picks to get Pitts there also. So I think it's very interesting. The difficult situation is going to be stacking now and doing something with your quarterback in these last 2 picks. I mentioned earlier about not galaxy brain and beyond belief, but how do you feel about trying to see CD or CG may do this to us, but I won't mention it. But what about Marcus Mariota as your quarterback this week? Is that too much of a step when you're trying to set up this sort of a tournament lineup?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that Mariota is actually kind of like the quarterback that we should be looking at. So
Well, that's what I'm thinking too.
So we've got lots of fun options there at quarterback.
And I think, like, obviously we're doing this here. Some other people might be drafting. I do think like Trevor Lawrence team with some of the Jags with AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, like things like that. I think that game could be so fun. Now the weather is a concern with that game at the moment. There's some reports. We'll see how that plays out. But I just hope that the Jaguars can keep a little bit of not even pressure, but just scoring some points versus what happened last week with Washington, where they just got blown out by the half. But I hope they can make the Eagles continue to just onslaught, because they are going to be
right.
The Eagles are just looking so good, so much fun.
I think what's fun here as well at our last 2 picks, we get to take them both together.
Yeah.
So whoever we do, we have lots of different options at quarterback, because we can go off the board with a wide receiver teammate as well.
Couple of comments coming in even as well, just based on this week. But Paul mentions on Monday and Tuesday we were able to get Lamar and Andrews based on how ADP was going, and then Chris G updates is super disappointed is the comment.
Well, he's even more disappointed now because we took Devonta Smith off him as well.
Yeah, actually, sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that at the point.
I did think about it. I was like, let's do it.
That's a crusher. That's not very fair. So then we're probably looking at, if we are going with the Falcons this week, do we need, if we're going with somebody like a Mariota, do we need to then get into bring back territory, or can we set off? And I don't know if anyone else is listening out of these 6, but the other player I would like to get here would be Drake London, to go with Marcus Mariota and then see how things play out. How do you feel about that?
So I think we've got 2 options. I think we could go with Mariota, and I probably wouldn't double stack him.
Okay.
And just another player that we like. Or another option would be to take the other side of the Philadelphia game and go with Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, so basically, what I touched on a second ago.
Exactly.
And are you going with Zay Jones as the other option?
Yeah. Or like, or James Robinson is also in play.
Well, we can't take Robinson because we have 2 running backs.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So let's take Mariota, I think, and then let's have a talk.
Mariota. Okay, yeah. So you don't like Trevor Lawrence.
We have 4 seconds. Let's get it done. You're doing this on purpose. Oh my god.
I got him. I got him.
I was. You were doing that. Were you doing that on purpose?
No, I wasn't doing it on purpose.
So they faced the Cleveland Browns, and I'm not an Amari Cooper guy, but Amari Cooper has looked good in recent weeks.
No, we can't draft him.
It's against the brand. So
where do we go down? It's got to be Njoku.
You could even toss in. Oh, we can't take a running back for Patterson either. There's a lot of options.
Okay, so
no, we can't. I said.
We took Kamari. Oh no, Drafting with streamers is plus EV, unfortunately.
I'm wondering, did you do that by design?
No.
Okay.
No,
Because
that
I
wasn't
actually do
Sonic.
think
That
I
was
actually
just
do
more like
I actually
I had
do
something
think
set
as
up in mind,
yeah.
and then I was trying to answer your suggestions, and then we had 20 seconds left, and the clock ran out on us.
Well, as little as I want to draft Amari Cooper, and this might be the only time that I have him on any team this week, he will not be in any of my DFS lineups. But when we have a situation where we're looking for a bring back and the way things played out with the Falcons and the Browns, I do think that was the play.
So let me ask you this, Colin. You get a time machine, and we run it back, and we have a choice between Trevor Lawrence and Zay Jones, or Mariota and Amari.
Do you know what the time machine would make me say again that I also said when we were doing the options at the start was Marcus Mariota and Drake London? That is the option. I would have triple stacked it.
You would have triple stacked?
Yeah.
But why would you do that?
Well, double stack a quarterback and the tight end and the wide receiver. Because I think that, again, it's another way to get different and you are looking for a smaller path. The team may be dead in the water if it doesn't click, but it's a situation if the two of those pass catchers do go off in a single week and you have Marcus Mariota, that there is not going to be happening across that competition very often. And you're looking to, as we said,
you would need the Falcons to score 40 points.
I think there's possibilities that we'll see that in some week. Like we have seen the Lions put up over 30 every week of the season, I think, at this point, have we? For 3 weeks.
Right. And
we have also seen the Falcons offense try kind of not to score points and still be able to do so. So if they can decide to really get Drake London and Kyle Pitts involved
really hard to score 40 points when you're not trying to score points, though.
That's pretty hard when the coaching staff's as bad as that. So what you're really trying to get back to is in this situation that you did want Amari Cooper over Drake London. That's all that I'm hearing at this particular point. I'll give you this here option. As we set, have we lost that draft board? Is that draft board into the
draft
ether?
Board is gone.
Do we want to do one more before we wrap up, or do we want? I'll
do another.
Let's do another. Let's do another. Just so I can draft Kyle Pitts again. I'm going to stick with Kyle Pitts because, like, you know, my biggest money teams have Kyle Pitts on them, and they're struggling at this point. So I'm just going to keep. I'm like that gambler, just chasing to get it back. But,
right. Anytime you can take a losing bet and
make it a winner.
More money into it.
Yeah, that's the key.
Well, lucky for you, it's my money that's going into it.
That's yeah. I'll have to. I'll send the check in the mail. So we have the 103 here. So we're getting a nice split here for people watching and to get an idea of what's happening. We do have a number of people watching in at the moment. I hope you've all hit that like and subscribe button here on the channel. Myself and Conor may do these over the course of the upcoming weeks. We've talked about this, Conor, for a few weeks. Things haven't always clicked into place, but we thought we would do it here. I'm going to the Packers game in London next week, so we won't be doing it next weekend, but we might even get something early in the week for people to watch in. But check out Conor's work up on RotoViz.com. He is doing strategy pieces each week at the moment covering this particular format. But the 103, Conor, looks like we're going to get one of our quarterbacks here. And unless Jalen Hurts goes in the first two picks, this feels like a game where we may do the aforementioned Jacksonville and Philadelphia stack here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, let's see how it plays out. I guess it doesn't really matter. Jalen Hurts would be my preferred quarterback, but there's lots of fun ways to play Lamar as well. So we'll let the room decide. Wow.
We get Diggs in the 101. We get a differentiation here to kick things off.
That is fun.
So how does that change your any differences? You mentioned Hurts would be the preferred option, but what's your thoughts? I would have to imagine the next two before us are going to be Mark Andrews. What's your thoughts now?
I think I want Josh Allen in the third slot. What do you think?
I'm good if you want to do it. I said Lamar Jackson earlier and you took, but I think we can get different here with Josh Allen being in the third spot. I think Lamar will be there in some other leagues.
It's harder. It's harder to for a value to make you different.
This could be a fun room here. We get Barkley at the 1 and 4.
This is getting wild.
So this is the first draft that has started in any way different, really, over those first kind of 5-6 picks. So we get Diggs, Andrews, Allen, Saquon Barkley off the board through 4 picks. So it's going to give us some potential interesting options. Obviously, the one thing here is that Josh Allen cannot be stacked with Diggs in this one. So we'll see how we do things there. And then obviously Mark Andrews has gone off the board as well, who would be a potential bring back in that game. Lamar Jackson goes off the board at the 5th spot. So Jalen Hurts at the 6th. I would imagine AJ Brown. No, Nick Chubb goes there. So what's the hope here as we get ready for our mid-second round pick? And this is the first draft too, where we'll have to do that little bit of strategy as to the players that may come back to us in the next round, because there is only the 4 selections between our picks.
Yeah, we'll have to be watching who these guys have, to try and figure out who we can let slide. Like, obviously, we can let tight end slide
with number 2
to some degree, because 2 already has one. Okay, so we're on the clock. I know we had AJ Brown already, but I don't see any reason not to take him here.
No, definitely no reason not to take him.
There's no reason not to take him.
There's never a reason not to take AJ Brown.
True.
Alpha. Yeah.
True.
So we'll see here. We may get a different roster. We'll see how it plays out over these picks. It'd be nice if Devontae Adams got back, but
having it from the 103 does give us a lot of potential to.
Oh,
wow!
Devontae Smith goes at the 2. I guess you say, I don't know, at the 12th pick, but the 206. Devontae Adams. So we do have a 0 RB team, or a heavy wide receiver drafter here through those opening 3 picks. We get Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith, and then Devontae Adams. So we'll see who comes back to our next selection. Michael Pittman goes off the board. I think it has to be McCaffrey.
Yeah. Now, this is the exact way we started our other Josh Allen team.
Yeah, from the 101 on that one, but maybe it doesn't. It's going to be hard to get differentiation now from this point based on that. What about we go Kyle Pitts instead?
It's too late.
Oh my goodness, it's still not too late. It's too late now, but and see, you thought Amari Cooper wasn't a value, and Amari Cooper goes at the 304 in this draft. We got him
that's his ADP. His ADP is the 304.
So we got him at the 601, and we did. The only reason we got him is because it was auto draft.
I was just trying to help us out, Colm.
Yeah. So we start off Josh Allen, AJ Brown, Christian McCaffrey, and the dream here is one more pick and Kyle Pitts comes back to us.
Right. Jay Boone.
Is that going to make it? Come on, Jay Boone, 13. Let him slide. Let him slide. He slides. Will you let me have him now?
Well, Jamal Williams is right there, Colm. Of course, we're taking Kyle Pitts here.
The problem is I can kick Conor from the stream, but I can't make the selections.
You can kick me from the stream, but you can't kick me and you can't make the picks.
Yeah, so that's the trouble here. So that makes us a little bit different than the start we had previously, is that we get Kyle Pitts coming back.
Colm, you've got to be happy now. 2 out of our 3 drafts, we've taken Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Which also will probably make me very unhappy come, Sunday afternoon time when all the entry fees across different formats are ranked up again. But I think this is a fun team here so far. So Josh Allen, AJ Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Pitts. There is no kind of bring backs. There's no stacks at this point. What are you thinking here? So at this point, Gabe Davis isn't off the board. He's probably the way we're trying to play it. Maybe this becomes Gabe Davis, and then we get our old buddy Bateman in it, or maybe I don't think we want to go back to the well with Dobbins in this roster, but maybe we do.
So I'm just going to put some
options in there. Devin Duvernay and his fantastic returning skills. I think the first pick here has to be Gabe Davis anyway. We're on the clock. So I think
we'll take Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Obviously we're not doing what we said. We're bad
drafters.
And this is why it is so hard to build a unique team. So we really do have to go off the board here. Yeah, Bateman is not in play for us, I don't think. Be honest, I think
Probably
that
is
we
Dobbins
don't pick
again.
a Raven here.
We don't pick a Raven?
I think that's the way to do this. And maybe a bit of Tyler Lockett.
What about
Robinson?
What about a different Seahawks wide receiver
there? No, sorry. We need to get way different here. So we need.
You think we need to get that different? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what about Garrett?
We have 11 seconds left, so we make our pick here.
Okay. I mean, I would be James Robinson.
Okay. What do you think? What's my assumption of the team?
So I'm gonna. This way, it won't disappear on us. So here, I guess. Here's why I decide. I guess I did decide we couldn't do. We had to get that different. Like, ideally, you want your last two picks to be after pick 30 and probably after pick 35. But like I said at the start, the Josh Allen, the Gabe Davis combination is going to be so common.
It's so easy to do.
We've only got 4 other spots to differentiate, and we didn't do it. And I'm happy we didn't do it, AJ Brown. I'm happy we didn't do it, CMC, Kyle Pitts. They're all great picks that I'm happy with. But essentially, this is our sole opportunity to differentiate from the 9,000 other Josh Allen teams. And I guess part of the idea for James Robinson is I actually wrote a decent amount about him at the start or in my article this week. In this case, he does play AJ Brown, so he had that kind of like mini correlation there.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the best ways to play this week is to take a player like James Robinson. I really like Breece Hall there as well. Because they go so cheap, not because of their talent, but because they're in committees. But if you look at the different snap shares of running backs across the league now, pretty much every running back is in a committee. Like, there's like 4 running backs that aren't.
Yeah. I've said this for a long time, Conor, is running backs who are in a 2-man committee are very valuable.
Right.
If you clear 1-2 points, that is a lot of value to fantasy football players.
And then on top of that, it's about how good the player is. So like when everyone's in a committee, the players that, other than like the CMC, Jonathan Taylor, the players that are going to finish at the top of the leaderboard are going to do that because they play really, really well.
Yeah.
They're going to make big plays. They're going to make big runs. They're going to score touchdowns. And believe it or not, James Robinson is like the third highest running back in half PPR scoring.
Yeah, he's on a tear for coming back from his injury, which I wasn't expecting him to look this good this early. So I like the mini correlation that you mentioned there. I like it based on what I talked about. If we have a situation where the Eagles are doing what the Eagles have done so far, this game is in Philadelphia, that leads then to Jacksonville having to come back, and then it could be a situation where him and Etienne are obviously coming out of that backfield, but you get 5-6 receptions coming your way as well, and that starts to really boost up a player like that. So this has been a lot of fun, Conor. We ended up squeezing in 3 drafts as we moved through it. I mentioned your article is fresh up on RotoViz.com. People can check that out right now if you're heading over to look at it. We have been drafting in the Underdog Battle Royale, a $5 entry. You can sign up to Underdog using the promo code RotoViz to get yourself a 100% sign-up bonus up to $100. That obviously gets you 20 bonus entries over the next couple of weeks to this, but we're not looking at stingy prizes either. $50,000 to first, $250,000 in total prizes, obviously, as we mentioned, is top heavy, but you can get these drafts done really, really quick, and they are a lot of fun. So, Conor, as we get ready to wrap things up, week 4 is less than 24 hours away. What are some of your final thoughts here, and what should we be telling the listeners to watch out for?
In week 4, well, I don't know. I'm not very good at predicting exact outcomes. I never feel comfortable doing that. But
other than we're going to win the $50,000,
we're going to win. You know, I almost won one of the other tournaments they do on this the goal line stand last week. I've written a good bit about those tournaments as well. What's fun about them is that you still get a couple of thousand for the top prize, but there's only in the goal line stand. There's only 2,000 other players, 2,000 or so, and it's a 12-person draft. So you don't have to worry about any of the stuff like, oh, how unique do I go? You just play the best plays, draft the best team that you can, and that one is a lot of fun to do as well.
Awesome. I would recommend check that out. But check out Conor's work, and we'll be posting these streams and any other shows we do over the course of the next couple of weeks and the rest of the season in general, and heading into next season up on the RotoViz Best Ball podcast feed. The links to find that and subscribe will be in today's show notes. Make sure you subscribe to the RotoViz YouTube channel. Drop us a comment. Let us know which draft was best, which is the most chance to win money, and then tell us which picks were our absolute stone cold worst. Let us know in the comments below. But until we are back with another show, of course, have a good one.